What's the creepiest encounter you've had with a complete stranger that still gives you chills? Mine is fairly mild, but was still gross and creepy to me, and made my mom lose her shit on this dude. I was around 12 years old, and we were visiting my dad who was working out of town. We were staying in his hotel room, and had ran to a local convenience store for some snacks and things for the room. As we were standing in line at the checkout, my mom was in front of the cart, at the cashier, and I was behind it. This old man, probably mid-60s or so, came up behind me and said something to the effect of, "You've got nice legs," but he said it in a suggestive/gross way. Thankfully, my mom heard it, and went off on the dude. Cycling from work. I'm in healthcare, just had a late shift. So pretty late and dark out. I'm going over a railway bridge. I suddenly see a line of glass across the surface. Now, I'm pretty dumb so I just cycle over it. The moment I go over it I see a guy come out of the stairwell on the side, that pedestrians use to enter the bridge. This guy just gave me the creeps, so went to other side of Bride but it was only a few meters wide. I kept eye contact. Pretty much expected to get jumped, as that was obviously the point of the glass on the road. Hoping I'd have a flat and stop. I called the cops when I crossed the bridge, hope they caught that guy. I was on a train late at night by myself. I found myself alone in the section and was zoning off with my headphone on. I luckily saw two guys crawling down the next section through the glass door because one of them had picked his head up for a split second. We were approaching a stop at a parking lot when I had parked. I acted like I didn't see them and was patiently waiting for the train to stop. As soon as the doors were about to close I jumped out the door and ran to my car. I looked back and saw them both stand up when they realized I jumped out. Fucking creepy. What the fuck, where was this? Like what state/country? I had driven to Connecticut and took a train to New York City for the weekend. So this was on my way home in Connecticut. I was about 10, getting back home from the park with my sister. She, being the stubborn younger, I need no older sister playing mom to me, sibling walked purposely 20 meters ahead so nobody would even think we were together. She rounds the corner, and I hear a blood-curdling scream. I never covered 20 meters so fast in my life. I round the corner and there's a man, holding my sister by her throat, dragging her into an open car parked nearby. When he sees me advancing and yelling incomprehensibly, I honestly don't know what I yelled, I was scared out of my wits, and he realizes there's two of us, he drops her, jumps into the car and drives off. She had fingerprint-shaped bruises on her throat for days. Sort of similar, a friend of mine was out on a nature trail taking his 3 young kids for a bike ride. His 4-ish-year-old daughter has rode just a little bit ahead and over a small hill. When my friend crested the hill he saw a man pulling his daughter off of her bike, attempting to carry her away. That shit can happen so fast. A man outside a bar one night approached my girlfriend and I. He asked if we heard about the murders in New Brighton. We of course had not. He went on to explain that his girlfriend had been killed. The next morning I saw that he was arrested for killing her. You saw the same man on the news? Yes, apparently that night he confessed what he did to his friend and thankfully that man talked him into turning himself in. I used to work at Meijer in the deli. A customer came up and asked for my opinion. I recommended all the things I liked and was just super friendly, I guess. He ended up calling the store that night asking for me. The other girl I was working with didn't even offer the phone to me, just told him I had left, thank God. He came back the next day and started asking me personal questions. I was very vague and then started helping other customers. He left, came back the next day, I had to get management involved. He was standing like behind a pole just watching me. I had to be walked to my car every night for about a month. I would call my boyfriend at the time, now husband, every night on the way home and lived in an apartment building with another coworker whose husband would literally walk me to my door. I still feel like he's watching me sometimes, and this was about 4 years ago. When I was in college, in rural Kentucky, I ended up stranded one weekend in Lexington. My sister had dropped me off at the Greyhound station before heading to the airport. She'd been visiting me from out of state, and I was going to catch the bus back to my small college town. Only problem was that it was Sunday, and the regular bus didn't run that afternoon. This was before smartphones were ubiquitous, so I couldn't look it up in advance. I walked across the street to the Walmart with my duffel bag and sat in the entryway area calling different friends trying to find a ride home. All the while feeling near tears, stressed and tired and just wanting to get home. Then a man who was exiting the store stopped and stared at me for a few seconds. Mid-50s, gray hair, trucker cap. He said, "Do you need a ride?" I have never had this experience before or after, but I felt like had a split-second psychic intuition, and I knew that if I went with that man I would end up dead. I just instantly felt it in my bones, like I could see the future. It was terrifying. I said no, and he tried several more times, but finally left. Thankfully, a friend of a friend finally gave me a ride, still during daylight hours, and I made it home safely. I know exactly what you mean by that gut instinct feeling. I was road tripping a couple years before COVID and I stopped at a rest area in Missouri. This stop had a gas station, a fast food restaurant, and a gift shop. I even remember the name of the town I stopped in and the distinctive big red barn gift shop. A man followed me to and from all three places in the rest area. We made eye contact and this wave of black malevolence just rolled off of him. I got in my car and drove 150 miles without stopping. I was so scared. Someone tried to kidnap me on my way home. I was right next to my house, literally the other side of a fence, and could see my front door. They never caught him. Similar girls to my age and description had similar stories over the years, and the guy they described was aging appropriately. Carried on for 6 years and then just stopped. When I was with my ex, her daughter would constantly walk round corners or cut behind us and wasn't getting how quick it could happen, so I asked her one day if I could pick her up when she stepped behind Mummy and see how quick we vanished. Hated scaring her, but she said yes. I scooped her up and stepped behind a wall with her. She never cut behind us again. I'd have loved to have left her as a kid without that fear, but she'd do it in crowded city centers and I'd rather scare her than have something bad happen. Don't know his real name, but he told me to call him Mr. Tom. I only spoke with him for half an hour, but I've never forgotten his horror. He told me he'd spent his 20s traveling the world beating up and torturing prostitutes, and there is no doubt in my mind that he did, until in his 30s when he discovered that he preferred it when they beat up and tortured him instead. His parting phrase stuck with me like a tumor: "Son, I've got all the pain money can buy." Was he some type of random psycho you met in a bar, or was this just some dude you met on the internet who randomly told you all of his dark secrets in under 40 minutes? This was when I was 21. I worked in a brothel for 6 months, not at the sharp end of the business, though. I had talked the boss into letting me edit a promotional magazine for his hotel/casino. Initially I didn't have an office, so I used the internet cafe computers. This guy came over asking if I could help him print some stuff out, for money, with the condition that I couldn't look at what I was printing. I said that was impossible as I needed to open it on screen, and he thought about it for a bit and then acquiesced. When I got this stuff up on screen, it was really vile shit. Short stories about women being eviscerated, fucked while on fire, being forced to have intercourse with pigs, all sorts, and some shitty pencil type drawings to accompany some of the stories. Sick shit, but fiction, if there's a silver lining. As I didn't immediately jump up in horror and flee, partly because he was paying me about half a week's wages for 10 minutes work, he presumably concluded that I was some kind of kindred spirit and began telling me his story. I've never hated anyone so profoundly so quickly. Did you ever call the police about this? I hope so. No, this was in the most notorious brothel in San Jose, Costa Rica, in 2001, which was my place of employment. Calling the police would not have ended well. A lifetime ago, when we used to hitchhike to the beach, my girlfriend and I got into a limo who stopped to pick us up on Queens Boulevard. It was older and not really great looking, but we didn't think anything of it. We were excited to get a ride in a big comfy car. We were 15, we pile in the back and the dude says, "Hell, and where are we going?" We tell him Rockaway, and he says, "Holy shit, I'm headed there now." To our credit, we both looked at each other like that sounded off. Usually you'd get a ride only halfway cause it's kinda a big right turn off that route. We started noticing that the guy was really dirty. Then I noticed that the door handles in the back were missing. I was big for my age, and super long hair, almost to my waist. I looked a lot older than I was. I basically told the guy if he didn't let us out at the next light I'd come through to partition and beat his ass to a pulp. He tried a whole lot of, "Hey man, just be cool, let's smoke this joint." I told him next light or I start tearing the car apart. He hits a button and doors unlock. I push Mary out and follow her. The dude had something planned and it wasn't good. Insane. I'm from Queens, I go to Rockaway Beach daily. Scary shit. Well, to be fair, this was the 70s and hitchhiking was always a bad idea. It was actually on the way out even then, but we were kinda hippie kids and free-spirited was an understatement. I was 17 and was in New York City. I was going from the hotel to buy some croissants near Times Square. I already knew New York City quite well, so it was normal for me to do this walk through the city. As I am walking, I never realized someone was following me until a cop starts rapidly walking towards me from the right, and just about as the person following me was about to grab me, the cop grabs his arm and stops him. My stomach dropped and I just kept on walking, just letting the cop do his job. Like the most legit best cop story I've ever heard about New York City. I've got the second best one. There was this creepy dude at the 96th Street subway sexually harassing strangers on the stairs. I knew there were police at the top, so I assumed they'd get him once he was in sight/earshot, but then Crazy Pants walked right over and started sexually harassing the cops, which I have never seen happen. This was in San Jose, California. I worked at a car dealership and a lady came in to look at a truck. She was going to pay cash. She was wearing expensive jewelry but acted very strange. The whole time I was trying to figure out if she was on drugs. I ultimately decided I wasn't comfortable going on a test drive with her. We were close to closing anyway. There was just something off. So I closed up shop and watched as she wandered through the car lot looking at cars. The next day I see her mugshot on TV. She had bludgeoned to death an older lady with a hammer in the lady's home and robbed her. She committed this crime the night before visiting our dealership. So the jewelry she was wearing. Purchasing her getaway car. I can't help but feel I got out of that situation with my life. So glad I trusted my gut on that one. I was about 10 when my family was staying at a cabin in the mountains in the winter. It was a snowy night and my parents and aunt/uncle had all gone to their bedrooms to sleep. My siblings and cousins and I were all sleeping in the living room. At some point I was awakened by a chilly draft. When I opened my eyes I saw the front door was slightly cracked and there was a man making eye contact with me. In the middle of the night, in the freezing cold, on the deck of a cabin that was way up the mountain, far removed from town. I screamed for my dad. The man disappeared into the darkness. My dad quickly came to the living room and turned on the porch lights. The man was just standing in the driveway silently looking back at us. He claimed he was just looking for a drink of water. That's freaking scary. Did someone leave the door unlocked? Yes, I remember my dad being distraught afterwards because he realized he had forgotten to lock up after tucking all the kids into our sleeping bags. Needless to say, all of us kids slept in the bedrooms with our parents for the rest of the trip. When I lived in a rental property on the west side of Albuquerque many moons ago, I had a census taker knock on my door. Okay, fine, I guess someone needs to do it. He asked me how many people lived in the home, how long I had been there, etc. Then he asked for my social security number as well as my wife's. No. I don't give my social security number to anyone except the IRS dude. He said, it's the law, you have to provide me with it. No, I absolutely do not, now please leave. I'll be back tomorrow. Sure enough, he shows up the next day banging on my door and yelling from outside, I know you're home, I know you're in there. I'll be back tomorrow. He came back a third day knocking on the door and I yelled through the door, I'm calling the police, you fucking psychopath. Sure enough, the police show up 15 minutes later, he's still standing there with his clipboard. The police take his ID, he gets on the radio and comes back 10 minutes later. Sir, there is no record of you working for the local census. You will need to vacate the premises. Absolutely bizarre experience. They didn't arrest him for impersonating a government employee? Nope. But it was Albuquerque, where you can steal a car, get arrested and then be released back onto the street within a few hours. Those cops have bigger issues to deal with than weirdos. There was a guy who would come out and shout at us in the play park for being too loud. We used to be cheeky back and he would end up pointing an air rifle at us. As kids we found it funny and thought he was full of shit. He ended up murdering his wife by bashing her head in with a hammer. Holy shit. Yup, definitely an early lesson of be careful who you mess with, as you never know what they've really got going on under the hood. Looking back now, it's a wonder how he never actually shot at any of us. Doesn't really give me chills but was quite creepy. I was leaving a club with my friend and happened to walk out at the same time as two very drunk young women. They were so drunk one of them kept saying, "Where is my phone? I've lost my phone," until she realized it was half wedged into her top. They started talking to us and I decided to make sure they got home safe. They didn't want to pay for an Uber and wanted to walk home despite not being able to walk and not being able to operate their phones. I insisted that they order it and did it for them. I also decided to wait to order mine because they were extremely vulnerable and unwise, probably recently 18. While this is happening, a very sketchy looking dude with a weird look in his eye comes up to us. He asks us if we want to go to an after party and mentions his Uber is on the way. I politely refuse for all of us and he kinda hangs around looking at the girls and looking toward the entrance of the club. His Uber, van-style people carrier with a sliding door, pulls up, he opens the door and says nothing to the driver. Suggests we come to the party again. Waits for an uncomfortable amount of time and realizes we are not going to come. Closes the Uber door without saying anything to the driver. And the Uber drives off. He then makes his way back up to the club. He was in the club that night and probably followed the women out, but, unfortunately for him, fortunately for them, they got talking to me. A really similar thing happened to a girlfriend while we were on a work trip. We stayed at the same hotel in different rooms. We had dinner one night at the restaurant on the ground floor. This was the hotel from Die Hard, if I recall correctly, in LA. We ate at the bar because it was busy and the bartender was way too interested in her. And he kept giving her free drinks. She didn't drink much to begin with, so she was getting toasty. I got a really bad feeling and closed out, paid the check. I don't think he drugged her, but to be safe, I took her back to her room. After I put her to bed, and laid down on a towel in front of the door. Guess who knocked on the door 20 minutes later? Fuck that dude. Fuck, that's scary. How did he know about the room? He followed you up or had some other form of access? Like a hookup with a card or camera access? Maybe he'd seen you both previously? She had been chatting with him, so I'm not sure if she told him. It was tough wrangling her up to her room, so he could have followed us, I guess. I laid down in front of the door so she wouldn't wander, never expected him to knock on the door to check on her. Late to the party, but I'll tell mine. I, female, enjoy a beer at a bar by myself from time to time. Either to just be alone, or maybe chat with a bartender if they're feeling social. Occasionally I'll get some unwanted attention, but usually a casual mention of my boyfriend gets folks to buzz off without issue. One time I was at the Little Dive bar by my house. A guy sat next to me and started chatting with me. Friendly stuff. Nothing too forward. Didn't even catch his name. Then he goes, "You live at, my address, yes? Unit number 1, on the corner?" I lived in an apartment complex. My unit was indeed the number 1 on the corner. I had never seen this man before. I got a sinking, this isn't good feeling. "No," I replied. "I'm sorry, you must have me mistaken for someone else." His demeanor changed immediately. He twisted towards me with this really annoyed look. He responded, "No, I see you. I always see you. You live there." His tone was this weird mix of frustrated and offended. He was just glaring at me, waiting for me to respond. Insert, "I'm in danger Ralph" meme. I bumbled out, "Nope, don't live there," one more time, paid my bill, and bounced. I was nervous to go home, so I went to a friend's who gave me some pepper spray just in case. Not like I would be effective using it, but hey, it was something. Thankfully, I never saw him again. I moved out of that apartment soon after, which I was already considering, but this gave me the push. My guess/hope was that he lived nearby and just lacked social skills, but the way he said, "I always see you," still gives me chills. Please play along when a woman comes up to you and pretends to know you. It has happened to me. I approached a couple in Target pretending to know them and they walked me to my car as there was a creepy looking dude vulturing and even followed us outside to see what car I drove. Couldn't be comfortable after that. This has happened to me twice. Once while sitting in the dining room of an Arby's, a woman came over to my table and said some guy was creeping her out and asked if I would walk her to her car. I did. Never saw the guy though. Another time at a laundromat, a woman asked me to stick around while she finished folding because some kids were harassing her. They were just dumbass kids, but they were in fact harassing her. I put a stop to that. I was a single dork back then, and both women were way out of my league. Apparently I looked safe though, of course I was. I'll always remember that Dudley Do Right feeling. In the early 90s, I was in a grocery store with my infant daughter. I was looking at magazines when I was approached by a man that looked to be in his 50s. He was dressed stylishly, a bit on the heavy side, bald head. At first, he was looking at magazines, then he started some light conversation. When he talked, his voice was very low and smooth. It wasn't the words, it was the tone. I felt instantly relaxed with him. I'm an introvert. I don't feel relaxed with strangers. I don't know why, but it popped into my mind that he was hypnotizing me. Right about that time, he told me he had a camper in the parking lot and that I should go with him. Part of me felt like this was a reasonable thing to do. Thankfully, the other, internal, part of me freaked the hell out. I told him no and he walked away. I should have been scared, but I wasn't. It all seemed so reasonable. It wasn't until I got home with my daughter that I started freaking out. I still don't understand it. He sounds like exactly how people describe Ted Bundy. Some people are just ridiculously charismatic. It's so creepy. I worked in a library during grad school, and this man came into my section asking to use some older technology we still had available. It was right after opening one morning, and I was the only one available to teach him to use some of the machines. He was there almost every day, and if I wasn't working that day, he would leave. He figured out my schedule and that I worked as soon as the library opened on certain days. When I was there, he would have many questions and difficulties with the machines. One morning when I was supposed to be at work but had an engagement that made me about 30 minutes late, he discovered my large, male coworker instead. He had spent the night hidden in the bathroom by my station and hadn't left all night so that the motion detectors wouldn't go off. He had also taken a bath in the bathroom. The police were called, and when I arrived he was being led to the police car screaming for me. Needless to say, he was banned from ever entering the library again. I also never worked alone again, alone meaning alone in my section on my floor because it was a massive library, was always scheduled with a male coworker and another administrator for openings. I was pregnant with my first child in 2001. Right before my due date, I was obviously really pregnant. I was shopping in Walmart, and I started to notice this woman on every aisle I went on. I would guess she was in her mid-30s. When I went to the baby section to look at clothes, she started asking me questions. At first they were common, like about the gender. Then the questions started getting strange. Was I married? Did we have a house or an apartment? She commented on my accent, and was curious if we had anyone in the area. I am from Michigan and was stationed in Florida, visiting for the birth. Just kind of odd. I was young, 20, but I was married and my husband and I were both active duty, living off base in a rental house. I just told her yes, we were excited and to have a good rest of her day. She then started actually following me, telling me her husband was outside the store and they could help me take my groceries to my house. That's when I got really nervous. I told her I was fine, thanks, that my husband was home and could help me. She then told me they had a big truck and that she would buy me a large baby item. I politely declined and she was so insistent, becoming aggressive. She then offered to buy my husband a grill, since we didn't need any baby things. I was getting panicky at this point because I knew this lady was not right. I went to check out, so did she. She got out before me and I watched her racewalk out of the store and sure enough, she and her husband were pulled along the curb at the front near the pop machines. They were in a beat-up old yellow box truck. Husband rolls down the window and says, "We'd be happy to help you with that." I again declined and went to my car. Loaded up and watched for a minute. They didn't move, just watched me. As soon as I pulled out, they did, too. I hauled ass out of there and they were only behind me for a minute or two. I still drove around crying for about 30 minutes making sure they were gone before I had to pee and needed to go home. I'm now 44 and that is the first, and one of just a few, times that I have felt that level of fear in my life. That's really terrifying. It was. Especially when I think about it now that I'm older. I was a lot nicer to strangers when I was younger because that's how a lot of us were raised. I would not have left that store. Obviously they were going to, I don't even know, abduct you and take your kid as their own or worse. I've read stories about women who cut open pregnant women too. Take their baby? That's exactly what went through my mind, was the fact this lady wanted my baby. My husband's mother lived in Ohio at the time. She had told me about a tragic case of a woman there in late 2000 that was murdered for her baby. I think that stuck with and at least led me to make sure they had not followed me home.